Good afternoon, and welcome to Jeff and the Rabbi. I'm Jeff. This is the Rabbi. So, Rabbi Freeman, we've pretty much, since we've been doing this show for all these years now, we've covered every topic. We've solved every world issue. We've pretty much, from religious issues, social issues, political issues, we've solved them all. But you know what? I don't think we've ever, in all these years, tackled evolution. It's one of the biggest topics, one of the biggest things we should talk about, and we've never tackled it. So I think today, we tackle evolution. We put it to bed, put it to rest, and we give the answer. Now, I know out there, many people out there thinking evolution, atheists will use evolution to say, well, that proves there's no God, right? Now, I think evolution is pretty much just the opposite. I mean, every creature, I believe in evolution. I believe that we evolve and that we grow and we continue to change, but I believe that's proof of God. To me, that's what it means. So, I think that the problem I have, though, is way back when, according to evolution, us and the monkeys, we were pretty much the same thing. We were hanging out in the same tree, we're talking, we're getting along, and then, all of a sudden, a couple millennium later, things changed a little bit. I mean, we've got mankind out here in 2017. Man's gone to the moon. We've cured thousands of diseases. We've built cities. We've even invented that ShamWow. It's like a chamois and a towel and a sponge all together, the ShamWow. You don't get as seen on TV?
Do you get an extra free one if you order by midnight?
You must have seen that. You have seen the commercial. You have seen the commercial. So we've done that. At the same time, that monkey that we were in the tree with, he's still flinging his poop at the zoo against that little glass encounter. Mm-hmm. So what has happened to the poor monkey, the poor ape? In prehistoric ages, again, we were the same thing. Now, thousands of millennia later, man's wearing Prada shoes and a Versace jacket, and that baboon's still kind of sporting that kind of red butt, that we've seen there. So there's got to be some kind of a difference. Is it just scientifically coincidence that this happened, that man has evolved so differently, or is there some kind of divine situation? And when we get to divine, that's when we bring in the rabbi. So we are hoping,
and they come in swinging on a vine,
and we're hoping that he can release us, release the grip from those monkeys from our unsubstantiated past. Mm-hmm. So, take your hands off of me, you damn dirty ape. Chuck Heston, 1968. I thought I'd get that in there, Rookie. Never saw Planet of the Apes?
Maybe one of them. There was a bunch of them, wasn't there?
The rabbi really isn't seen too many movies.
It's been a while.
That was a pretty good impression, though, if you think about it.
Really?
That was a really good impression.
I have to go look it up.
First
thing I'm going to do when I get home.
Look that up.
Yeah.
Look that up. So evolution. I mean, how could it be that we've evolved so differently from everybody else and it just be natural?
You know what? It really doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Wow. Watch this. So here's the big issue. Everyone seems to say, the atheists especially, like any atheist says, why am I an atheist? Because evolution has proven that there is no God. And all the scientists, as a matter of fact, when you ask people although I did read an interesting study one time, they asked professors at a major university, do you believe in God or not? And, they all said if they did or they didn't. And they asked the ones that don't, why not? And they did say, interestingly enough, they said in the ones in the social sciences, they all said because evolution has disproven God. Wow. And of course, the ones in the hard sciences tended more to believe in God, and they didn't say evolution has disproven God. Here's the issue. Evolution seems to say that once upon a time, there was this great inorganic soup, and somehow or another from this inorganic soup, they call it, there came about an organic cell. No one's got that exactly figured out. And from that organic cell, it started to replicate, and it started to replicate. And then the evolutionary process set in, and you had the bacteria, and the bacteria to more. And then they started differentiating, and some of them went off and became the baboons and stayed the baboons, and others developed other things, and they became more sophisticated until you and me.
Gotcha.
Okay? And therefore, this all happened very naturally. It all happened totally independently of any God or anything like that. And therefore, We don't have to believe in a God. You don't have to go looking for a God to answer the question of how we got here. Evolution explains or gives us the answer of the question, how did we get here?
Talking about faith. That's faith.
Yeah.
That's real faith. Can believe that happened.
You know where it makes the mistake? Because evolution, although maybe evolution doesn't jive with the account in Genesis, but let's put religion aside. Let's just put religion aside for a minute. Let's say I'm not a Jew, Christian, Muslim, but maybe I'm a theist. I just believe in God as opposed to an atheist, right? I just believe in God. And then I say, you know how we all got here? God got us here. Okay? Now, as far as was it maybe it was even an evolutionary process, and maybe it was even a Genesis process, whatever you want to say. Intelligent design or whatever. But let me ask you the other question. How did it all start? This is a separate question, and this question is called the origin of life question. There's a guy named Richard Dawkins. Richard Dawkins is like the high priest of atheism, and he's a scientist. And as Richard Dawkins says in his book, I believe the book was published in around 2006, his most recent book, and it's called The God Delusion.
I think I've heard of that, yeah.
Famous book. And he says that once you posit life, evolution proceeds merrily along. The only problem is you have to posit life. So I could ask the question.
So that's where he starts.
Yes.
Okay, that's
there was a living cell. All it takes is one. But it had at least one living cell. I gotta have a cell. From there, evolution, I could tell you how everything happened, all the way down to you and me.
Well, that's
includes
all right.
Lucy and the Cro-Magnons and the you-knows-what and the, all the various different,
Right.
in our fossil record, and even though it's got missing parts and all that, but along the way we could fill it in, right? The problem is, however, where did that first cell come from?
That's a big problem.
Big problem. Because before you had the cell, you had inorganic life. You had materials. You had maybe minerals or something like that.
Well, pretty much your kit was you had dirt,
Yeah.
water, and a lot of wind and hot air. And
Yeah.
cold air.
Okay.
Now, where'd you
Okay.
get the cell, though? I guess?
The thing is, and in that water,
You shook it up a lot. It moved around a lot. It did a lot of
but
things.
there was nothing
No.
crawling around in the water.
Nope, nothing.
Nowadays, in our water, things are moving around. They're alive. They are replicating. But in their water, H2 of them,
Yep.
and O.
That's it.
Right, that's it. And then maybe you had a bunch of minerals. So where did life come from? Now, the thing about life is that it is really complex. Even the simplest cell is so super complex.
Yep.
And the ability and the number of commands that it has to give in order to replicate itself is such a phenomenal process.
I mean, it's alive. It's a being.
Do you know how many calculations, like if it was a computer program, you know how many calculations it would be running every second, every nanosecond? It's just absolutely amazing. As a matter of fact, you will find that the earliest life form that we can find in the fossil record is phenomenally complex. Like, we never find a simple life form, and even if we were to find the simplest of life forms, the simplest of life forms are incredibly complex.
Well, without a doubt.
So therefore, the question would be, where did it come from? Now, there's this presumption that you had all this inorganic material, and somehow or another it became organic. How does that happen? As there's a rabbi named Rabbi Moshe Avrik, and he wrote a great book, and we're going to give him a shout out. Everyone rush out to buy this book. The book is called Nonsense of a Higher Order. Nonsense of a Higher Order, and it's an analysis of atheism, like atheism today. Nonsense of a Higher Order. And he asked the question, where did life come from that evolution is supposed to explain? Once you have life, I get how evolution could have taken it from that point
No,
and
I'm looking
onward.
at it.
But where did life come from to start with? He said, you know what the example would be like? You have hardware, and you have a room full of hardware, and the hardware would produce software. So you have all this hardware, but it has had no software loaded onto it.
Well, but even more complicated than that. I mean, I'm just going to add a little bit to it. Is it's as if you have this amazing computer. You have a computer that is 100-year battery life. It repairs itself. It fixes itself. It thinks. It grows. It evolves, which I think is an amazing thing. And it even has a program. We have actually seen the program for this computer. Mm-hmm. And you're saying not only is this amazing computer, it's bigger than 1,000 million times faster than everything we have today, but I'm going to tell you, because I'm an atheist, I believe we have that program. I see the program, I see the computer, but nobody wrote it.
Okay.
Nobody wrote the program.
So that,
but we have the program.
So that, what you're saying is, that is called step 2. You're right, that is very logical.
But we see it, but even in that little cell, there is DNA, there is a code,
Right.
there is a code. But we're saying it's brilliant, but nobody wrote it. It
Right.
wrote itself.
Right. So that's the problem. Or like the example I was giving, if you have, how could hardware create its software?
Right. Can't write it.
Right. If it can't write its own software, and you can give it
Unless
all
it's
the
programmed
chances,
to write it. It can be programmed to write it, but then somebody had to program it.
You can give it a billion eons of time.
Right.
You know, give it all
Heat,
the
cold,
right.
everything.
Give it all of the chances in the world. The hardware cannot write its own software, and it doesn't matter how many chances it has.
That's why I'm saying the leap of faith that an atheist must have to take is amazing.
So the atheist will say, well, somehow or another, life came from this primordial mix, they call it, whatever it was, and somehow life came from that, and then evolution takes over. And the truth is, yeah, if you could get past that first big step, then evolution would take over. So now, let's say you can't get past that big step. No one knows how you get past this big step. As a matter of fact, no one knows, as scientists have said, we don't know who the antecedent is of the first life form. Like, we don't know where it came from. Well, if that's the case, then you'd have to, he says, as a matter of fact, I forget the name of the professor, he said, you'd have to say that it was almost like miraculous. Yeah, that something happened. Now, let's say something miraculous had to happen in order to get life to get started. So now, Mr. Miraculous, I'll call him God. You can call him something else if it makes you more comfortable.
Jim,
right? But Mr. Miraculous is out there, and he made inorganic go organic. He made life come from, he made life. Okay, great. Now that you know that he's out there, now, that's where you come in. Let's look at this evolution.
All right.
There's two possibilities. Either it evolved, or someone wrote it. Now, if there's no one that could have written it, then you could go with evolution. But if it's someone wrote it versus evolution, and you know that there was someone there that could have written it, well, which one is the more likely of the two?
Well, I think that's pretty simple.
Then it's hands down. Evolution doesn't even stand a chance. See, evolution only stands a chance in the absence of God to start with. And we can't say there's an absence of God to start with because we don't know where life started to start evolution.
Yes, and I think that's where I say, again, what the leap of faith you have to take God out of the equation is more than the leap of faith you take to put God in the equation.
Right. Unless, of course, you are desperate to try to get God out of the equation, in which case you have already decided what your goal is before you started even doing your evolutionary research. But the whole evolutionary argument posits that God is not there. That's okay if you want to posit that, but then you have to first answer the question, well, then where did life come from to start the evolutionary process? And there's no sense really moving forward.
If you can't get that one piece, which is a big piece,
if the whole process is here to show you that God doesn't exist, and you have to posit that God doesn't exist for the process, that is called circular. You've got to go back to the beginning, and you've got to say, what is the origin of life? And then the evolutionary process. If you can somehow come up with some plausible alternative origin of life, then evolution can take it from that point till here. But without that plausible alternative, the whole evolution exercise is just exercise in futility.
I think it also stops, again, I think you have the second exercise of futility is is we'll go back to what we talked about at the beginning. Let's say you came up with somehow how creation occurred and evolution begins. Well, then the question is, out of all the millions of species on this planet, let's take the bear. Let's take a bear, because we always use the poor monkey.
Grizzly bears.
Take the ancient bear or the ancient tiger. Let's take the ancient prehistoric tiger. We've seen him in the thing. He's got saber-toothed tiger. He's got his big teeth. We say he's got big teeth because he's got to kill, thick-skinned reptiles.
Right.
Over the millions of years, if that's the numbers you want to use, the tiger physically has evolved.
Right.
His teeth have gotten smaller. He's different. Whatever. Over the millions of years, man, let's say, looked like a monkey. If that's what you want to say, he is physically evolved. There's no difference in the evolution there. I gotta agree with that. The problem is right now the tiger, if you want to use the word mentally, has not evolved 1 inch. The tiger is still hunting his prey, looking to mate, eating his food. The wolf is still a pack animal, no different. And we today are having this show right here, which is a pretty good show. I got to tell you that. We're sitting here right now. Now, the greatest thing I think, the most brilliant thing about atheists today is what they'll say is that's the missing link. Well, yeah, I got to give you that. It's the missing link. How can you explain the evolution of a bear, a tiger, a wolf, a monkey? If you cut open a bear, his cardiovascular system is probably very similar to ours. His pulmonary system is very similar to ours. Everything's similar. His cerebral cortex. Some animals' brains are bigger. Some animals' brains are smaller. How do you explain then the different evolution of an animal, man, that is built the same as everything else? How can you possibly explain it beside a missing link, which is...
Well, so you've got one of two ways. Either there's the evolutionary process, which we don't have exactly down pat,
Right.
or there was intelligent design. Someone was in the control room and said, okay, we're going to spin off a group, we're going to call them man,
Yep.
right? And we're going to give them certain properties, just a little bit of changed DNA, maybe like a couple % of change, but enough to make a huge
big difference.
Right? Because basically all it takes, if you're an intelligent designer, all you have to do is tweak 1 or 2% worth of
Yeah,
DNA.
but we're not talking... There's nobody within
Right.
any jump of man right now.
Yeah, that's true. But let's say the guy say, okay, give me some time. We're still looking.
Okay.
Then give me time. We're looking. We'll find him.
Okay.
We'll find it. We'll find it. We haven't found it yet. We will find it. So, okay, fine. I'll give you some more time. Listen, evolution presumes you've got like millions and millions of chances. I'll give you some more chances. Even when you find him, I'm still going to ask you, okay, where did he... All you may have done is maybe you've disproved Genesis. But I'll still, the Genesis account, but I'll still ask you, what was his origin? When you find that missing link, what was his origin? And if you're going to ultimately have to go back and say, well, I don't even have a guess. I can't even look. I wouldn't even know where to look for it. I don't know where that origin is. I said, well, you don't even have a clue as to the origin. Then you're going to have to posit that something unusual, extra existential caused that to happen. Now, once you have to posit that, well, if that one's there, then you may as well say he did the rest of the thing too.
No, once you get the acceptance, even of a programmer, a creator, a guy that turned on the switch,
Right.
anything of that, once you get that, okay, then I can explain everything. The rest of it was just talk.
And then he is going to beat hands down the evolutionary theory, because which would be more logical, that it all evolved, or the one who started it in the first place? Just
Well, he could have written a program that said you will evolve this way and you will evolve that way.
Yeah, he could have done that too, right? Then it would probably be more likely that he wrote evolution, because evolution itself depends on mutation, random mutation, which, why would you say random mutation when you could say planned mutation?
It's a good point. Yes,
Yeah.
That it is.
So the bottom line here is really that the evolution, the discussion, poor Mr. Scopes and Mr. O'Brien,
Yep.
When they debated it out, they were really debating, they felt that this was like God was hanging in the balance.
Right.
Even if Mr. Scopes wins, God is still not in the balance, because
Right.
the question of the origin of life is what God's really all about. It's about origin. After that, it becomes relatively simple, and whichever system you want to use, the Genesis system, the evolutionary system, it doesn't matter. So God could have used the evolutionary system if he wanted. God could use a Genesis system if he wanted. The bottom line is, though, you got to have an origin, and we're going to stick with God, or we'll call it God.
As much as you do, if you bring the Scopes and the Brian said, no matter what you do, Scopes he never touched the conversation about origin. He never went that.
They never do.
Brian wasn't the best arguer when he lost presidency 3 times. He probably wasn't the best guy to argue the point anyway. But no, but they never go back that far because that's.
You can't. All these is usually dismissed in one line, and the one line is something. Somehow from this primordial mass came life,
right.
And then they start getting into all the details of evolution.
Stop right
it's
here.
described in great detail what happens after that, but that first line is kind of a toss-away line. That's the whole point.
So I think what we're saying here is like every other issue that we've hit upon on Jeff and the Rabbi, we've solved this one too.
Yeah,
pretty much solved
we got it.
So no more discussion of evolution.
We got it. As Rabbi Averick says, that atheism is nonsense of a higher order.
It is actually on that one. I'm going to use. I'm going to actually look up the book too as well.
Yeah, look it up.
This is a good one. I think we've solved this question. High five.
Okay, there you go.
Done.
You know, I'll tell you one thing. Like, this show has really evolved.
It really has evolved, as a matter of fact. All right, we'll see you next.